So welcome everyone. Welcome to another dance with the Satsang for the soul. I'm losing myself entirely. But welcome everyone. If you're watching on Twitch, YouTube, I've got both those windows up so you can interact with us on the in the chat there. Or you can also join us live in the Zoom room where you can interact in the chat as well. And you'll find all of those links on CloutForum.org. So it's cloutforum.org where you can jump on. And so Satsang for the Soul is a weekly time where we get together with my dear friend here, Lee Green, and myself, Mark Bentley, and we have done a lot of work with the Mayan dream spell and, really dancing with this concept of time and, this how synchronicity kind of evolves us through the collective. So these are really moments to just come back into the present, to recalibrate, to really just come back into being. And we just basically explore whatever comes up and whatever comes to the surface. And of course, the traditional way to begin is with my dear Lee Graham. Lee, would you like to lead us into a little song to warm us up and get us started?
Yeah, I'd love to. Hi, everyone. It's a good morning from us here in this part of the world, and it's good evening to you on the other side, wherever you're listening from. So, thank you, Mark, for opening and just bringing people in. Wanted to share a song called World is on Fire by one of my favorite songwriters, Sarah McLachlan. And timing with for us, it's already the beginning of the Red Dragon wave spell. So that fire energy, deeply nurturing, awakening, and transformative. So I wanted to share that song today. So wherever you are, I hope that you're doing well. Thanks for being here with us. Hearts worn in these dark ages. You're not alone in this story's pages. Night has fallen amongst the living and the dying, and I'll try to hold it in. I'll try to hold it in. The world's on fire. It's more than I can handle. Tap into the water. Try to bring my share. Try to bring more than I can handle. Bring it to the table. Bring what I am able. I watch the heavens and I find no calling. Something I can do to change what's coming. Stay close to me while the sky is falling. Don't wanna be left alone. Don't wanna be alone. The world's on fire. It's more than I can handle. Tap into the water. Try to bring my share. Try to bring more than I can handle. Bring it to the table. Bring what I am able. Hearts break, hearts mend. Love still hurts. Visions clash, planes crash. Still they're stuck up. Saving souls, still the cold is closing in on us. straight line on this short run. The more we take, the less we become. The fortune of one man means less for some. The world's on fire, it's more than I can handle. Tap into the water, try to bring my share. Try to bring more than I can handle. Bring it to the table, bring what I am able. The world's on fire, it's more than I can handle. I dive into the water, try to bring my share. Try to bring more than I can handle. Bring to the table, bring what I am able. The world's on fire, baby. The world's on fire.
My dear Lee, that was just the medicine I needed. It's always interesting coming into these beautiful moments together. It's I really, for me personally, there's a very, very solid transitionary moment when I come from life, the morning, getting my son ready for school and dropping him off and thinking, okay, get back, let's do this, do that. The mind in that very masculine kind of doing mode. And then we come in and there's the technical sides, right? We share the links, make sure it's out. We do this and this. And I can really feel that mental mind. And I just have to forgive myself. It's like, it's okay. It's going to be okay. And then as soon as you start singing, your voice is like this tuning fork, this frequency that just, it really touches the heart. It really does. You have such a gift. And I can just feel myself being so much more present, so much more here,
Thank you.
So I really appreciate you bringing that. You bring so much wisdom to these conversations, and your music is.
Love you, my brother. It's always I've been looking forward to these Tuesdays now. It's Monday for some, but it's Tuesday for us, and it's just so good to connect with the power of music. I think that's really what it is. It really brings us in the space of the heart, and there's really a reason why indigenous peoples from the beginning of time have gathered around fire singing songs. And I can imagine how just the beginning of the music just sets everybody in that frequency right away. So yeah, thank you. Always have deep appreciation for you on the other end, listening. Love you. I chose that song for today because I've loved that song for a long time now, called World is on Fire. Just the melody of it, what it evokes and things like that. And I felt like it's an appropriate song to share for this wave spell that we are just starting, which is called the Red Dragon. When I think about World is on Fire, metaphorically and quite frankly, it's the truth that what we're seeing in the news, and just tapping into what medicine that could bring. It's not everything is fine and dandy and really nice and beautiful right now just yet, and kind of like we're in the middle of this firestorm.
Mm, absolutely. It's like you say, it's, and I think, today being yellow cosmic sun. So, like this is the final day as we close off that night for everyone watching. Like this is actually quite a big. It only really dawned on me, Lee, when I was kind of contemplating over the last 24 hours, just how significant today and tomorrow, these days really are for closing off this 9-month cycle that we've all been working on something, even for those, obviously, grounding this on BitClout and sharing it out there on this, if you're watching on YouTube, it's a decentralized platform that actually gave birth during this last 9-month period, this last spin of the cycle. And so we're in the final day of that process, this yellow, cosmic sun, this kind of masculine kind of sovereignty, the sovereignty of standing in your own power, to be able to shine the light and look at it in the face, be strong in being able to see what's real, not to flinch away or cover it in illusions and pretend everything, like you say, is all dandy, but to be able to shine that light on how far have we actually come, what have we actually given birth to? And then as we kind of, what really came to me was this kind of like, this cosmic tone. It's this time where it's like where we upload as a collective, right? What we've learned, it's where we take this whole experience from our birthing and we take a moment just to kind of clear, in a way, it's like computers, clear the RAM where you've been working with all this information for 9 months and just let it go. Give it to the cosmos, give it to this collective noosphere, this mental sheath around the planet, so it can be available for everyone else. And then as we move in, so we're moving in tomorrow, as you're saying, into this red dragon wave spell, and we can go in there clean, right? With a clean slate, without expectations. And this is, this is just my little morning rant from the shower. We're often, in the shower, it's where just, it's easy to fall into presence, right? Into being, and just allow intuition, that more feminine, to flow. And it made me just really think about when Felix was born. So my son, for those watching, I have an 11-year-old son, beautiful young man, and we named him Felix Hurricane, lucky hurricane. And he's been a lucky hurricane. He came into our lives. I wasn't, I only met his mother at a festival. It wasn't a planned birth. It was quite chaotic. And there was all this wildness that came from it. And it kind of made me think about, the birthing process, that I went through all these ideas of how birth should be, of how I'm going to be, of like, I didn't want it to go like that because I don't want that to happen. And just thinking, trying to analytically make it okay, work it all out. How can I support her while also... And in the end, when it came down to it, we had a home birth on the couch at home, and all the plans went out the window. Everything we thought we'd do, we thought it was going to be in the water, it wasn't. We thought it was going to be this, it wasn't. We thought so many different things. And I was just reflecting on it in the shower that, when we go into the birthing process, the more we think we know what we're giving birth to, the more we think we can control the process of birthing, the more we try and get ahead and go, thanks, universe, I've got it from here, I can do the rest. Which is what we see often with like male doctors and things that kind of come in with this very analytical, way of birthing. And it can create such a tension in the body. And that tension in the body creates pain, right? In the birthing process. It makes it even harder to give birth. It makes what could actually be an orgasmic birth be incredibly painful and scary, because we're thinking about where it's going, how we're going to deal with this, what might happen. We're so much in that thinking space, rather than as the red dragon, it's all about presence. It's all about being with whatever is birthing in you, giving it space to arrive and being receptive to, well, let's see, And so that was where I could really feel that mental side this morning. And with your music, it just felt that it was almost like you were my midwife, you were my doula. That was kind of just lulling me with a lullaby and helping my mind relax.
Beautiful. Your background is helping me relax too. The northern lights dancing behind you. I want to say hello to Notion videos that have joined us. Notion Video, that joined us here in Zoom. Hey, thanks for being here.
And big shout out to Alex on he's on the YouTube in the chat. He's having a bit of a week off to relax and get some space. Big shout out to you, Alex. Thanks for everything you've done,
Hi,
and hopefully you're
Alex.
resting. Mm.
Wonderful. Yeah, I was.
Mm.
It made me think about when you were saying midwifing. I don't know. I just had an image of my grandmother's sister all of a sudden. She's already passed on, but she was a real midwife. That not the hospital kind of midwife, but I just remember growing up that she was the person people go to in the villages to help them home birth, and I'm like, I wonder if she's passed that on to someone, because I remember she didn't have any granddaughters. It's all grandsons. So it just made me think about how precious these wisdom, knowledge that the elders really hold, and what would happen to us if we lose that connection. What kind of world are we birthing without the support and the knowledge and the wisdom of our elders? That wisdom from the past that will help us create nurturing worlds. And I think that's what we're getting into, I guess, with home birthing and things like that, as opposed to the other option. It's how can we be even more nurturing to someone who's birthing in that state of real intense pain, more than you can imagine. And it's such a sacred process as well. When we talk about birthing physically, and it could also be birthing your dream, or birthing your organization, or birthing a project. This is a sacred process that requires really tender nurturing, because it's also a fierce journey, to come to a point where you're ready to now birth. Like you're saying, it takes 9 months to really, create something that's ready to be born into the world. And that's the human journey. That's our journey as human beings. We spend 9 months in the womb, and that's why 9 is a sacred number. It's a sacred number of completion. The golden ratio looks like the number 9. This is in the snail's shells. Some reptilians, they curl up their tails in the shape of the 9 and the golden ratio, and there's something sacred about that. The fulfillment that happens within that time period. It takes fierce nurturing to protect your dream, I guess, to protect that baby in your womb, so that you can make sure you can reach the end line. How careful are we, right? Like when we're around, like you, for example, when you're about to welcome Felix, I could imagine you're just like, making sure that, that his mother is like, in a good space, and the baby is okay, because that's what we always ask: is the baby okay? As long as the baby is okay, we're gonna do everything to make sure, that everything is okay, and the baby is not in any harm's way. And so I think about that, as I relate that to the red dragon archetype, of how the dragon is just so fiercely protective. Just like if you've seen Game of Thrones, you've seen the dragons there, and how protective they are of Khaleesi. They just if they sense that something is something is wrong, and that they're about to attack Khaleesi, that dragon is just there ready to protect. And I think about this, yeah, and I think about that quality, and can you imagine if that's the quality of fierceness we can dedicate to the fulfillment of our dreams?
Yeah, absolutely. To be able to hold that with that same
Yeah,
sovereignty, that fierce courage, right?
that commitment to really nurture whatever needs nurturing, so that we can birth our dreams, birth our projects, birth the new world. And I think that's really what we are in the middle of. They have Many teachers have already mentioned that we are living in the fifth extinction since the beginning of time. And it really does feel like an extinction process
Mm.
for a lot of species on the planet, not just for the human beings, but so many animals, four-legged, winged, finned. So many species are now extinct and no longer alive on the planet. Meanwhile, they have been here for so many years, and now we've really hunted them to extinction. So I think about what kind of world are we looking into birthing, And when we think about extinction, we think about birth, we think about death, because it's just a cycle of birth and death. Um, yeah. So these things are what's permeating in my space right now at this moment as I really contemplate on the red dragon archetype and what a real responsibility we have, you know. And it's something that we need to take lightly, but it's also something that we need to take serious where it matters. Does that make sense?
It does, and that's almost like the eternal paradox and contradiction and challenge of being human, right? Is that on one level nothing is serious. Like it's in my years in the circus, I used to always have that slogan, you're healing the terminally serious, because it was the one thing that when we become so serious, it's almost like, in a way, seriousness can be very much, well, it is kind of in some senses fueled from this victim kind of frequency of, whereas at the same time, we do have a responsibility. We do have an ability to respond, right? As you're saying, we have these challenges, these are real. And we have a choice with how we respond, and that's our responsibility, right? And I think that fine line, and the only reason I say about serious is because there's such a fine line between losing ourselves in that heaviness. And that's why it's, like you say, that lightness of the seriousness, because when we lose ourselves in the heaviness of the seriousness, when we feel like responsibility is that we need to take responsibility for all of the world and all that's going wrong, we need to take responsibility for fixing every one of those animals, stopping all of these things and preventing all of this, then it becomes, and this is, I mean, I did that for so long myself, and it's like this chain, this heaviness. And what I found was I was trying to be responsible for saving the world, and in doing so, couldn't even move. I couldn't even save myself. And that's where, I found, like you say, it's this delicate time right now. We are being faced with death. And I feel like it's an important part we need to embrace as a collective, to stop fearing it so much, but understanding it as a natural part of the evolutionary cycle, that whatever has led us up to this point, that we are not, as far as my personal belief systems are, we are not devoid of nature. We are Pachamama. We are the earth and her children. And in that, there is a kind of evolutionary process that to me is very much like, birth. It is the contractions, as we get closer and closer to the infant, giving birth, those contractions get shorter and shorter spaces between contractions, those tightenings. And for those that haven't had much to do with birth, contractions are the woman's body, the mother's body, doing these muscle movements that are helping to move the infant, to move the child, down from the womb toward the birthing, the cavity, so it can make its journey. And that pressure plays a role. It gets coated in all these different bacteria and things that are actually going to help its immune system. There's mechanisms at play in those contractions as it comes out. And those contractions hurt, especially when resistance is there, if you're in fear, etc. Whereas others have, orgasmic birth, where They can surrender so completely that pain, those contractions, almost it becomes for them orgasmic, something that it becomes such a special, in that sense. And I know that's very strange for a lot of Western and a lot of people to hear that idea that birth can actually be a pleasant experience in a sense. And it just makes me think of what we're going through, Lee, with so much madness, like collective psychosis all over the planet right now, purging. It can feel like it's worse than it's ever been. But for me, what I'm seeing is that it's actually better than it's ever been. But what we're seeing is a purging of a collective psychosis coming to the surface. So rather than being ignorant of it, which was an option before, there is no choice of ignorance anymore. So now we're actually seeing what was already there. And now the actual, like governments latching down and crunching, people arguing and debating, all this kind of stuff that's going on. For me, that's the contractions, right? That's the universe creating this conflict, this confrontation that helps move our awareness into the right direction through whether it's pain or bliss. Some will experience this contractions through bliss. Some will experience it through suffering. But either way, these things that are happening around us right now, I'm a big believer of everything that has happened up to this moment is perfect. But we have a responsibility, as you're saying, as to what happens next. And that is our free will, right? So I feel like these contractions really are driving us towards a rebirthing. And even in human design, Lee, they talk, Ra Uru, who created the human design system, he received this download and all these codes, and he actually received a lot of mathematics and quantum physics that he actually got proven true after he received it in the late 80s. And part of this download he received was that in 2027, we were giving birth to a new kind of human, that the children being born after 2027, he used to call them rave children, RAVE, not like rave party ravers, but like a whole new kind of human design, in a sense, was being born right now. And so in that sense, these last years that we're in right now, it's like we're preparing for our death of one human species that has lived in a certain way, that has had certain evolutionary mechanisms in the body to breed, to spread across the planet, to kind of create a certain environmental condition so that we would all mix and entangle and create this kind of, amazing pool of just alchemy in the human genome. And now that we've done that, the prediction is that we're kind of the last of our kind, and the new ones will be coming in 2027. So in a way, our job is to clear the space for these children, to be able to clear the deck, to purge the old, to remove that kind of residual fear, that residual PTSD. It's like evolutionary PTSD that we're experiencing right now. And to come back into our power, into our sovereignty, and find that balance between being receptive and being responsible, and really being clear as to what is your responsibility. Like, what is your ability to respond right now? If you can't, your response, if you do not have something in your environment, for example, to respond to Afghanistan, for example, then it's not your responsibility. Now, media pump these things out everywhere, but it's crazy. Just because it's on the news doesn't mean you actually have an ability to respond necessarily naturally. The mind can try and force. Yet, right in front of you at home, within your own family dynamics, see, people often run towards, like with the Afghanistan, which is horrible what's going on, right? But it's a culmination of something that was horrible in the first place that was going on for a long time. And so now we're seeing such a focus of everyone saying we need to fix this. Yet in the Congo, it's been like this forever. You go over to so many parts of the world where the same suffering has been eternally going on, but we haven't focused on it. We don't feel responsible for it. And so for me, I find so many go to fight these big things where they don't really have much power to make change necessarily. And it's kind of almost a distraction from the responsibility they've got at home, the responsibility they've got with themselves, with their diet, with their sleeping patterns, with their health and well-being, of looking after this sacred vehicle that we've been given for consciousness to express itself through, to be responsible to bring the gift that is in your genome out to the world and express it and share it, because that is what is going to change the world. That is your dynamo power. That is what can influence planets when you are in presence, more than yelling and screaming across Twitter. And then, of course, the one so many run from, which is our families, parents and brothers and sisters and siblings and children and all these entangled, emotional, traumatic issues that we've got in our family, that it's like, it's almost like there's like this, that's just my family. I want to go save the world. And it's like, come and save yourself first. Save your family, save your home, save your community, and start there and reach out, because then we get these hubs, right? We get these hubs that are like collective midwives that get stronger and stronger. They anchor safe, solid frequencies at home so that you can create a safe space for your local people, And then from there, we then start connecting up using digital worlds, which is fantastic. But then we can connect real world nodes of goodwill and power and light and sovereignty. And we can start supporting each other. And then from there, we have a new kind of United Nations born, right? A new kind of collective power where we can actually then really make change in places like Afghanistan and other places, if that is what's correct, if that's what the universe wants. So,
wow. Lots there.
Yeah. I've never
heard of the Human Design 2027 bit, and it's, thank you for sharing that. That really has wow, 2027. It's not so far. And I remember Alberto Villoldo. He talks about this extinction process, the fifth extinction, and he talks about a birth of a new human species. And this is from the prophecies of the Incas and the Peruvian shamans. And that from Homo sapiens come the Homo luminous, light beings.
That sounds nice.
And in a way, I think that's the process. That is the process right now. How can we birth that Homo luminous in us? How can we birth that light? Or not necessarily birth it, because we are light. But how can we free the light that's within? It's kind of like, I love when he used the log, for example, because the Incas, they think of every being as light, like we are the daughters and sons of the light. They worship the light, not the sun, but the one that gives light to the sun. They're not so much of sun worshippers per se, but they recognize that the light, the light that's up there comes from a source of light, and that light is also inside of us. And he's used the metaphor of when we bring the log to the fire, right? And we burn these logs, and it's them seeing that that's the light from within that tree set free. When you burn it in the fire, that's the only time that tree returns to its light form. And I found that so profound. That process.
It's incredibly poetic.
Yeah, deserves that moment. I felt that that the fire that the dragon represents could be that fire that could set us free. set the light free. Perhaps, again, everything is a personal choice. We have our free will. We can also always choose. But they did say that having a human birth is not that easy. There's so many souls wanting to incarnate, and it takes a long time sometimes to come back here so that we can experience enlightenment, because enlightenment can only be experienced in this human form.
I think Lee just touched on something there that just really hits home as something that's so meaningful to me is, and it's this, so much of my spiritual life was spent in pursuit of trying to find this idea of enlightenment, which to me represented an escape from the suffering of the human experience to some kind of divine, experience. And eventually comes a time where there was that catalyst that makes me realize, that we are so incredibly fortunate. When we look at it from that grander picture, as you're saying, we got to be on the ride. We're here. We're in these vehicles. The suffering is really the amnesia that we've got that has shut off the connection, that realizes that we're eternal. But of course, that cutting off is so that we can really be here, right? We can really have the experience. And so we're the lucky, we are incredibly fortunate, including the suffering. And that's hard to get our heads around sometimes. But the extinction to witness all of these things, they're horrible. Yet at the same time, the very ability to be able to experience that contrasting of heart connection and sadness and grief, as well as beauty and bliss, is something that we get to experience because we are human, because we are flawed, because we are in this evolutionary, as someone was saying the other day, it's like humans are a process. Joe Rogan was saying it actually, he said humans are a process. We're not a finished product. And we put that pressure on ourselves that we should be a finished product. But the only way for humans to evolve, you watch AI, right? I was watching a thing on artificial intelligence playing that game. Was it Go? I think it's in, I can't remember where it is. Taiwan, Korea, or China. It was Go, which is like a little game that they use these white and black, and it's very intuitive. And
it's like an XOX.
Like an XOX, but like 1,000 times bigger, right? With infinite possibilities. And it's a game that's famous for needing intuition to be able to do it, right? Logically, doesn't work so well. And so it's kind of what they measure artificial intelligence against, because artificial intelligence has not been able to beat a player. It can beat a player in chess, but not in this game Go. And and it was like really looking at the way that they got the artificial intelligence program to learn it was, first, what it does is they feed it a bunch of good games of people that played some good games, humans, and it watches it and it learns from watching. And then they start playing it against humans, right? And so when it first starts playing, it fails miserably first time. And then it plays again, and then it plays again. Each time learning from its mistakes, using what it has seen from other players to help guide its mistakes and make them better. Because those mistakes help them know where to look in what it learned from others to extract the wisdom more efficiently for what's actually important in that moment. And so then it gets better and better and better. Then after playing a certain amount of games, it beats everyone, right? It now beats everyone. And so it just makes me think, that really computers, AI, they're synthetic imitations of humans and what we are and how we work. And that's where I see us as humans, like we need to make mistakes and we need to be allowed to make mistakes. And I think that's part of the birthing process, is we need to stop thinking it needs to be perfect, because trying to make it perfect is creating stress, which is making the contractions hurt even more. And finding how can we surrender to the birthing process and trust that these mistakes that we've made, this damage that we've done to the planet, this damage that we've done to each other, this trauma that we've created both collectively and individually, it's not a mistake. And I know that's a pretty tough thing for many to get their head around. It almost sounds like it's giving permission for these things, but that's not what I'm saying. It's that these are the things that wake us up. That if everything was perfect from the start, we wouldn't have moved from being little grubs, you know? It was like, it's the imperfection that creates beauty. It's imperfection in faces. It's imperfection in mathematics. It's imperfection in everything that brings beauty to the world. And so these imperfections, they've been horrible, they've been painful, but they've got us to where we are now. They've got us to the point where you and I are having a conversation on a decentralized social media platform filled with people that are watching this, that have their hearts wide open with a vision for creating something that is going to empower the creative spirit of humankind. That's where we are right now, doing this transmission, sending it out to BitClout, YouTube, etc. And just in saying it, that's pretty amazing, you know. No, I get a little passionate. I get on these little rides where it's like I'm really just, you know, we're so lucky, yet it is terrifying at times, huh?
We definitely are on the brink of something new, and then the birth of something new. Just don't know what that is yet. In 2024 would be the 4th year on the planet. No, 2023. Sorry, that would be the 4th year, self-existing year, right?
I'm going to take your word on that one. What are we now? We're in
right now we're on electric
yellow
seed.
Electric seed, yes.
2021. Yes. Sorry, 2022. We're gonna be on the 4th year. So that's when perhaps we can start to have an idea. You know, what's starting to take measure, what's starting to take form in the collective consciousness where we are heading towards. But right now we don't know what it is just yet. We don't know what it is that we are birthing, but it's the time to really get deep within the soil, you know, as a metaphor, go deep within the shadows of the world, the belly of what scares us, you know, and this also is the place where it's so teeming with life. I see that as a shadow work. I mean, we hear that being thrown around, especially in spiritual communities, the word shadow work and that whole process. But could it be as simple as really just accepting? And that's not so much about putting that away or eliminating per se. You know, we're so good at putting things away that is uncomfortable for us. We're so good at saying
hiding
like,
it in the shadows,
that's
right?
so ugly and that's so dirty and that's so evil and that's so, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to bring that into my space. But I think there is, like you said, like, you know, media plays a part in creating fear, right, in people when you're just broadcasting all the bad news that's happening. But if we can look at that without the lens of having judgments on it or having some idea around it, if we can really look at that news with just neutrality, I see that as an opportunity to see that there is something that needs help with in that part of the world. The media is also doing a service of bringing it into mass consciousness. You know, like for example, in Afghanistan, what really strikes me the most is that the condition that women and children are in, and it's been there for eons. You know, women as second-class citizens in some parts of the world still up to now, that requires the presence of a male guardian to do anything. I mean, for us in the privileged world, I live in a third world country, and thankfully we don't experience that oppression on women, and so that seems very archaic almost, but it's still existing. And so in that way, it's also bringing service to that old story, so that the whole collective can see how interconnected things are. Because when we talk about, I'm very passionate about women empowerment, but even the word empowerment, when that was a friend of mine brought that up for me, it's like, what does empowerment mean? Because in a way, we don't need to be empowered because we are already powerful. Like, women need to realize that the power is already within. Women are life givers. No other species can do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really, the portal of life. And so women don't need to be empowered. They are already powerful. We just need to remember that we are. And so all of these things in the women empowerment, we are talking about threads and how everything is connected, and how an oppression to one woman is experienced by all. Until one is free, then no one is totally completely free. We might be free in our little bubble, but in the bigger sense of the word connectedness, it's not completely the entire picture. And so we look at the suffering of people from different places, and it's an invitation for people in privileged countries to really look at that. And in some way, like you said, you can't do anything about what's going on out there in the world. I absolutely, totally believe that. Sometimes it's not our job to go out there. It's, for me, it's could be as simple as looking at the privilege you have in your life. My God, I have running water. My God, I can sleep without the fear of bombs dropping where I am. Oh my God, I'm a woman, I can drive my car. Oh my God, I'm a woman, I can decide, I can make my choices, what I want to do. So when we see the privileges that we have, it just, I guess it awakens that gratitude, again and again. Absolutely. That another person's experience is not our experience, and their suffering is not necessarily happening to us. And so when we wake up to that kind of comfort, and wow, what a good life I have, all of a sudden your little stories of how, oh, I didn't get what I wanted, all of a sudden that could start to melt away. And then, even just then, that's what we talk about. Even just then, the vibration of feeling lack, the frequency of coming from a place of lack and not having enough can switch on and be lifted into a frequency of gratitude, into knowing that you already have what you have. And in a way that is really powerful, because the human body has a million times more power than one nuclear bomb. That's how powerful.
Wild to think about, huh?
Yeah. Just with our thoughts, with just us, and I want one human raising his or her own vibration. You've spoken about this before, that affects another place in the world, like a butterfly that can flap its wings can cause a hurricane or something in the other place. It just shows the quantum relation, how everything is connected. Billy Aldo talks about that as well. So yeah.
Lee, as you say that, it's that part where sometimes we forget that it's a two-way flow, right? That when we say that, as you were saying it so aptly, that as long as there is anyone in slavery that is not empowered in their own power, as long as there is any one woman that is still in that space, then we are all still in that space. But at the same time, conversely, as long as we are also finding that gratitude, and I think that's the key, right? We hear it so often, gratitude is the key to everything. And it sounds very cliched, but I think you just spelt it out so beautifully why it's so important. It's that shifting of attitude. Because if we have all these things, all these privileges as such, because the word privilege even has been kind of turned into almost like an insult. It's like you're privileged. So that means you're like some, sometimes it's used, it's almost like they're saying you're some scum of the earth that's taking all the good stuff. And it's like it can come with that frequency sometimes. But then, as you're saying, if we can then, instead of feeling bad about what we have and then not allowing ourselves to enjoy it, self-punishing, like I will self-punish myself and not enjoy my blessings until everyone is blessed, then as you're saying, we're creating that frequency that's actually not helping. Whereas when we can acknowledge how fortunate we are and express deep, sincere gratitude for what we have, and to receive it with gratitude and not push it away, because I mean, how disrespectful is that to the universe in some ways, to everyone, to those that don't have it? What are you doing? If I got it, I would take it and you're not, And so then finding that place of how does it look to just fully be in gratitude for everything that we have, allow ourselves to be fortunate, so that then our gratitude can overflow out of that cup. Because then if we are feeling blessed, then at the same point as we are also simultaneously, oppressed, the oppressed are simultaneously blessed, right? In that quantum entanglement of who we are. Juicy discussion, my dear.
Definitely. It's always like this in these spaces where we can really have that space to talk about things like this. And thank you for people who feel drawn to listen to what we share here, in the replays, in the live streams. And it's something that I really look forward to every week. So Mark, thank you for just being a good solid foundation and ground into this work that we share here, and to be able to share the mind dream spell and share a little bit of our insights, how we experience these archetypes. Again, when we share our perspective, it's not entirely the description of what these archetypes are all about. It's so fluid. It's just an interpretation from another person who's experiencing the dream spell or the Zolkin or these archetypes. I think it's what makes it so beautiful. It's not like we're reading just the truth from a piece of book and that's it. And I really wanted to invite people to, if you feel drawn to it, to start tracking 13 Moon and see how you can also shift our mind into something that is more harmonious, a measure of time that is harmonious. That's really what calendars are. They just measure time. And so the calendar that we are using right now is called the Gregorian calendar, which is created calends from the Latin word account book. It's been created so we know when to pay our taxes, when they can collect taxes from the people. So this is not the measure of time that the indigenous peoples use. The indigenous peoples follow the 13 moon, honoring the 13 moon cycles, and then in the same time, the container that holds it is the 365 day of the solar cycle. So together, the masculine and feminine principle of time that is moving in a linear way on the planet is balanced. And this is what happens when we start tuning into calendars that are balanced. We also start to sink into an inner balance. Our heart starts to sync with our mind. It starts to come into a state of coherence.
Absolutely. And anyone that's listening to this, if this is something that you find intriguing, and if you'd like to learn more about it, then please do comment under the videos and let us know, because we're essentially birthing. Lee and I have wanted to work together for a long time. We're cosmic brother and sister from God knows what planet, right? And and it's been a long time coming, and here we are, and we really are just birthing this in response to, because in the end, it's we can have conversations on our own. And we do a lot of the time. And that's kind of where this came from, is like, we should really just live stream these conversations, So please do let us know if you'd like to learn more, because maybe we could do a course or something, Lee, and do it through BitClout and have a bit of fun. So of course, only if people are interested. Hey,
Yeah.
Lee, just
Yes.
noticing with the time,
Is it? Is there anyone
it's
that we were supposed to?
yes. So we've got a new segment. Speaking of birthing this as we go, something that was brought
Mhm.
live, Lee, you gave birth to in the last week, was a beautiful idea of anyone who's watching live in the live stream, doing a little, because with the Mayan dream spell, everyone is born on a certain archetype. So you carry an archetype, and it's your key. Like you were saying, Lee, it's not the description of who you are, but it's the contemplative key that connects you into the kind of the part of that mental sheath that holds your kind of codes, your kind of higher self, and allows that to come through the contemplation of it. And so today, so the invite is to join us live in the Zoom call. As we said, the links are always in CloutForum.org is where you can find the Zoom link to join us. And so today I wanted to bring in the beautiful Lisa Mariette. And Lisa is in Europe. So these calls happen while she's asleep. But she watched the replay last week, Lee, and she just sent the most inspiring and sweet, messages of gratitude. And she really felt, what it is we were trying to do. And it felt nice to have someone reflect that. And she shared it out and was really supportive. So I thought, as a little gift to you, Lisa, because she'll be watching the replay when she gets up, I thought we could do your signature as a little present. And then for next week, if you're watching this, then please do. It's 10 p.m. EST. So in USA, 10 p.m. EST on Monday evenings. Here in Perth and Philippines, it is 10 p.m. Tuesday morning. Every week, we'll be doing this for an hour. 10 a.m. Yes, 10 a.m. Time yoga, right? And so if you join us in the Zoom room, we'll pick one person each week who will get your date of birth, and we'll do your Mayan signature and give you a free little mini reading. So for today, Lee, we have Lisa. So Lisa is
What's
born.
Lisa's birthday? Hi, Lisa. Thank you for your support and just your presence being here.
Yeah, she has been absolutely a darling and actually very relevant, interestingly, that her signature to the conversation today. So Lisa, when I popped in her date of birth, came up. She is a red resonant moon in the wave spell of the blue night.
Red resonant moon.
Who wants to go
channeler.
first with a
well, red moon is the archetype of the priestess, of the divine feminine. The moon is all about the water. This could be very the sensitivity, like, because water is emotion. Some of the archetypes that I've met that are red moon, really beautiful and sensing and sensitive to what is going on. And at the same time, red moon is all about the flow, creating flow, going with the flow, just like the water. The water follows the flow of the river, right? And born in the wave spell of the blue night. So here to create some flow around the area of abundance. So here to create the flow, to remind people of the dream, which is abundance for all being, abundance for everyone. It's a beautiful archetype as a waves, but every archetype is beautiful, but now more than ever, to remind us of the sacred dream, sharing abundance with people, unlocking that flow of abundance for people as well. So yeah.
Makes me think of Imagine by John Lennon. The song.
Yes, that's right.
That just kind of flow that just indeed. And then bouncing off that, I'm a blue storm myself, and the opposite, like you were talking to these antipodes, these opposite kind of yin and yangs in the signatures. There's always these two that are on opposite sides that bring balance. And so for me, my challenge is the red moon. And so for Lisa, as a red moon, the challenge is the blue storm, right? They challenge, support, and help each other grow. And these red moons, like you say, there's a sensitivity to the point that there can be a hypersensitivity that can almost make it hard for them to move, because it becomes, they feel everything. It's like that feminine, that's where the feminine without a good, strong masculine holding. And when I say masculine, I'm not, again, not men and women, but with a good, strong masculine holding them safe so that they can be sensitive. Because you put that sensitivity out into like the middle of the city without strong, I hesitate to use the word boundaries, but without being held, in the same way that a midwife or a doula holds a mother giving birth, then they will be overwhelmed by everything that they're feeling, because they're so feeling. And so the challenge then is the blue storm, which is, to be able to find the eye of the storm so that you can stand within the chaos, to be able to feel it, but not be in it, in a sense, to be able to watch it all around, almost like being, like you say, that sacred priestess, to be able to feel, but not be drawn in and battered about, by the storm. And I can speak, Lisa, from coming from the other side as a blue storm. My challenge is to allow that fluidity, to trust in the flow, to let go of control, and you'll see sometimes that part of being a storm is I catalyze and open people up. And I have a very kind of strong masculine that can hold space while they go into trauma, while they go into these spaces. And I hold it, and I can hold it. But sometimes in order to do that, I lose my sensitivity. And then if I do this too often, I don't reconnect back to my feminine, then I get too much on that side of the storm. And so that's where, for all of us, it's about finding that balance, between, you are here to be that priestess, to be that flow, to allow the dream to purify, right? It's like the waters, like you're saying, Lee, these emotional waters, tears, right? When we cry, they're here to wash away our grief. They're here to clean our emotional body, these waters, and they carry the grief of eons that pour through our faces, and they're beautiful. And I remember someone once in some coaching work we were doing, and they said, don't hand them tissues. When someone's in trauma and they're crying and they're releasing, don't hand them tissues. Because in some sense, it's saying those tears are wrong. You need to wipe them away, get rid of them.
Yeah.
Rather than actually just get messy, let that snot dribble down your face and the tears going over, the mascara everywhere. And that's the beauty, right, of that cleansing. And then as we cleanse, the abundance can flow, right? That connection to the dream can be awoken again. It can be felt. But sometimes we got to be a little bit sensitive.
Going with the flow to allow and unlock the path to our dreams. And maybe sometimes, like maybe our sensitivity are the ones that are creating those obstacles to remember the dream. So these are just all points of contemplation. I mean, I talk about hypersensitivity because sensitivity is a gift. And I was reading another book that talked about sensitivity, and we need sensitive people in the world, people who can sense, from the word sensitivity. These are people who can sense beyond what is seen. You can also look at...
Oh, sorry. There you
go for it.
I was just going to drop in quickly that it just flashed in my head in the Gene Keys work, which is, that I'm ambassador for on these other side, but it's all entangled. Sensitive, because when you said sensitivity is a gift in human design, in Gene Keys, the shadow of sensitivity is codependence. So when we're oversensitive, hypersensitive, we become codependent on our environment changing in order to be okay, as opposed to being sensitive, but not attached to what we're sensing in that sense, not identifying with what we're sensing in that sense.
And I think has to do with boundaries, and it's a good word. We as women, we need to really assume and create that boundary around us. Boundaries are sacred no, and we can't. Boundaries when what we let in and what we don't let out. A friend of mine that I had a beautiful conversation with just recently talks about the warrior at the gate. Who do you let in? that is also
Yeah.
as important as who's inside. And so, yeah, creating the boundary is good. Otherwise, the river will just flow everywhere.
Yeah. And it
You
becomes a
know?
stagnant marsh.
Yeah. And so boundary is good because it just directs the flow. So it can flow. So yeah, red
Mm.
resonant moon and the waves fell of the blue night.
Mm.
Beautiful. Thank
I
you,
hope that landed
Lisa.
for you, Lisa. And Lisa, you can comment on the video below if it landed home, and anyone else that wants to be in the run for that, please do make sure to join us for the next sessions. We look forward to it, and it's one of those things, right, Lee, that the more energy we have in the space, the more interaction of people there, it's just juicy, where we can just be in that collective flow and we can all co-create the
Definitely.
conversation.
Yeah.
Well, I'm noticing the time, we have gone a bit over, but it's
I know.
sooner or later I think we're just going to have long form 3-hour conversations. We'll see how well we do it just keeping 1 hour for a while, but I have a feeling they're going to stretch.
Thank you all for being generous with your time, and if you're still here with us, beautiful.
Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Yeah, all your support and sharing out there to Big Clout and all those different things. Share YouTube's there. We'll keep, if you put any comments and all the rest, we're going to keep an eye on the chat as well. So even though we're closing the conversation here, if you're watching the replay, then you're with us now. And if you comment, we will still be interacting and connecting. We'd love to feel your presence. So much love. I'm going to hand it over to you, Lee,
much
to bring us
love.
to the close.
I started with the world is on fire, and I want to, I come into our weekly thing and, thinking, what am I going to sing? And usually it's just on the cuff, whatever flows, which sometimes could be like, oh, what, I'm coming close to the end. I don't know what to sing. It's sometimes in my headspace, I'm like, but right now what's coming to me is this beautiful song of Jason Mraz that I love as well. So first one, we started with The World is on Fire, and we're going to end with The World as I See It. They all have the world. So interesting, birthing. So let's have fun with this song. Thank you all for joining us. Yeah, the world as I see it is a remarkable place. Beautiful house in the forest of stars in outer space. From a bird's eye view, I can see it has a well-rounded personality. From a bird's eye view, I can see we are family. It's not hard for me to love you, hard for me to love you. No, it's not a difficult thing. It's not hard for me to love you, hard for me to love you, because you are the world to me. Yeah, the world as I see it is a remarkable place. Every man makes a difference, and every mother's child is the same. From a bird's eye view, I can see we are spiraling down in gravity. From a bird's eye view, I can see you are just like me. It's not hard for me to love you, hard for me to love you. No, it's not a difficult thing. It's not hard for me to love you, hard for me to love you unconditionally. No, it's not hard for me to love you, hard for me to love you. No, it's not a difficult thing. It's not hard for me to love you, hard for me to love you, because you are the world to me. You are the mountain, you are the rock, you are the chord, and you're the spark. You are the eagle, you are the lark, you are the world, and you're remarkable. You're the ocean eating the shore. You are the calm inside the storm. You're every emotion you can endure. You are the world, and the world is yours. not hard for me to love you, hard for me to love you unconditionally. No, it's not hard for me to love you, hard for me to love you. No, it's not a difficult thing. It's not hard for me to love you, hard for me to love you. No, it's not hard for me to love you, my brother. No, it's not hard for me to love you, hard for me to love you. No, it's not a difficult thing. It's not hard for me to love you, hard for me to love you unconditionally. No, it's not hard for me to love you, hard for me to love you. No, it's not a difficult thing. It's not hard for me to love you, hard for me to love you, because you are the world to me. Yeah, the world as I see it is a remarkable place. The world is such a remarkable place, and it's an extraordinary blessing to be here. Tomorrow is not promised to any one of us, and today is truly the present. So wherever you are, look around and see nature supporting you. See the earth holding you. See the beauty waiting on you. See the inspiration waiting for you. And the beautiful things that you're going to birth into this world that nobody else can bring into this beautiful planet except for you. You are loved. You are needed. And you matter. Yeah, the world as I see it is a remarkable place. Bring it home. Aho.